You have earth, water, air, and fire all throughout the Bible. And if you don't know what that means, you will have a hard time understanding what the Bible is trying to teach us, because it's all about moving from the earth state of consciousness to the fire state of consciousness, which fire burns up all the impurities, purifies your mind, and allows you to function from a renewed mind, a mind like Christ, as we're called to have. The ultimate goal is to be more like Christ. And I'm going to talk about the Christ frequency today. And this isn't some new age woo-woo sort of stuff. This is what the Bible teaches on a deeper level. And this is how you can truly transform your life, your interaction with others, your connection with God and with the people around you, and seeing God in them and being a light in the world for those people that enter into your life and those people that are around you, simply by being. And this is what I will call the Christ frequency in this video. If you're new here, my name is Chris Foss. I consider myself your brother in Christ and a teacher of the mysteries. And let's get started. I have a few very important topics that I want to cover in this video. It might be a little longer than my usual videos, but I know you will gain a lot of value from this, especially if you are trying to be more like Christ and give your life to God and really function from a space of unconditional love. Because that's what God calls us to do. That's what Jesus Christ calls us to do in his teachings. And that's how your life is going to be transformed. Now let's start with talking about frequency in general, and specifically your brainwave frequencies. I'm going to tie this all together, so stick with me. There are 4 main brainwave frequencies. You have beta, alpha, theta, and delta. These frequencies are coded throughout the Bible. And the Christ frequency is the theta and the delta frequency. This only comes through spiritual practice, through following the way that Jesus taught, and through meditation. We're going to break this down. The alpha frequency is your monkey mind. It's the problem-solving mind. It's the mind that's constantly going and going and going and never seems to stop. This is the frequency that you're in most of the day, if not all of the day. Most people are always in this beta state frequency, even the scholars, even the theologians, even the people who study the Bible and memorize the whole thing, and they know all the verses and they can just throw all the verses at you depending on what topic they're talking about. But they're still in the beta frequency. And as you guys can hear, there's a huge eagle right above me. This is my favorite spot because of these eagles. But listen, the frequency of beta, is the thinking mind, the carnal mind, as Paul talks about quite a bit in his letters, and especially in Romans. He talks about the carnal mind. And the carnal mind is enmity to the spirit, to God, meaning the carnal mind is completely opposite. It's in opposition to the mind of God. The carnal mind is your beta state of mind. It's your earth consciousness. Your earth meaning your animal nature, your flesh. Your carnal mind, your animal nature, your flesh. The sacrifices of animals in the Bible is not supposed to really mean to sacrifice an animal, but it's actually pointing towards sacrificing your animal nature in order to rise above. So let's move on to the second state of consciousness, or the second brainwave frequency, which is alpha. The alpha state is the relaxed and calm and receptive state. You can get into the alpha state by doing some breathing practices, or you're naturally in the alpha state when you wake up. As soon as you wake up, your mind is kind of calm and very receptive. That's why some people say you should read something as soon as you wake up, or do something important, or learn something as soon as you wake up. It's what some people call a super learning state. And it's also, your mind is also in the alpha state right before you fall asleep. So you can imagine it like this. The beta state, the brain waves are racing. It's actually a a higher frequency of thoughts going on. So there are more neurons sparking in your brain. When you move to the alpha state, there are less neurons sparking in your brain, meaning your mind is not as loud. It's more calm and relaxed. This is the goal, the first goal, and then you want to move into the next state, which is the theta state of mind, which is a state of mind of deep meditativeness. This happens when you're in a deep state of meditation. And most or all babies are in the theta state of mind until they get to about, I think 2 years old. So when a baby is like 1 to 2 years old, they are in the delta and theta state of mind. They're very receptive. They're very peaceful. They're very connected. Their mind isn't going. They haven't developed a thinking, problem-solving mind yet. But as they get older, they start to enter to the theta state, and then they start to enter to the beta state. So this is very interesting because Jesus taught that we have to be as children to enter into the kingdom of heaven. And now we know scientifically that children are in a different state of mind. They're literally in the theta and delta states of mind, meaning there's less mental activity going on, and they are more in tune with the creative force, the creator, God, whatever you want to call it. They are more in tune with that frequency because their brain isn't going. Now, another aspect to this is Jesus saying, take no thought. On the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus taught many things, but the thing that he spent most time on is to take no thought. And you have to read it in the King James Version. If you're reading it in a different version, this is Matthew chapter 6, by the way. If you're reading it in a different version, it will say, do not worry. But the initial translation was to take no thought, meaning to go beyond the thought process, not give your thoughts that much significance. Because the only way to connect with God and to get into this Christ frequency is to go beyond your thoughts. This is the only way. You cannot enter into the Christ frequency if you're constantly thinking. I know some very good-hearted, positive, loving Christians, people who believe the Bible, believe in the whole resurrection of Jesus Christ and all of these things, but they are still very carnal in their mind because their mind is constantly in the beta state. They're functioning from their problem-solving monkey mind of memory and regurgitation of that memory. The scholars, the theologians, they are very smart intellectually. They have a sharp mind. They may even have a sharper mind than me. They probably do. But how often do they take the time to go into a meditative state, lower their mental activity, and come into that Christ frequency of unconditional love, which happens when you are in the alpha, theta, and then delta state of mind. So let's move forward now to the delta state of mind, which is when you are in a state of deep sleep. It's actually likened to unconsciousness. You're not even aware that you are there. This is total oneness when you merge with the source and there's no longer an I, meaning there's no longer a individual person. You merge with the source. Now, this can happen consciously. This happens every night when you go to sleep. Well, maybe not every night. Depends if you're in that deep REM sleep. You're in the dreamless sleep state where there's just nothing that exists. This is the delta state. Now, think about this very carefully, please. When you are asleep, your body renews itself. What does it say in Romans chapter 12, verse 2? It says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So when you are in deep sleep, your body, your mind, it's renewing itself. It's recharging. You can think of it like that. It's recharging. Now, if you consciously go into this delta state of mind, then your body will naturally, your mind and your body will naturally renew themselves conscious. You can do this consciously, is the point that I'm trying to say here. You can do this through meditation, through certain breathing practices, through focusing, through concentration on one thing. With your eyes closed, you can simply concentrate on your breath, on your heartbeat, and you can lower your heartbeat. You can lower your mental activity. You can take no thought, as Jesus taught. And then you will realize that as you do this over and over, continuously, you bring your thoughts, you bring your mind into a alpha, theta, and then delta state. Your mind will literally start to renew itself. You will no longer be functioning from the carnal mind. You will be functioning from the spiritual mind. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. He that is in the world is that problem-solving mind that's constantly looking outside, analyzing things, trying to make sense out of everything. He that is in you is the life, that which is beating your heart, that which is animating your body, that which is keeping you alive, that which we call spirit. And you can only access this by going beyond the thoughts, by taking no thought, as Jesus said. If thine eye be single, thy body shall be filled with light. The lamp of the body, or the light of the body, is the eye. The third eye, this is what happens when you go into a delta state of consciousness. Now, you can't function in the world from a delta state of consciousness. This is why you have to go into your closet and pray to your Father in secret. And this is why what I tell you in the darkness, you must go on the housetops and speak in the light. The housetops, the higher states of consciousness. What he tells you in the darkness, what he tells you when you're in the deep darkness of meditation. This is when God can speak to you. God can't speak to you fully if your mind is constantly going. Think about it. Your mind is racing 100 miles per hour constantly all day, every day. Thoughts, ideas, concepts, analyzing this, analyzing that, wondering if you're doing this right, wondering if you're doing that right, wondering what's going to happen tomorrow, worrying about what happened yesterday. How can God speak to a mind that's cloudy like that? How can the light shine through a cloudy mind?
Sorry.
It can't. My other phone is talking to me. I think I accidentally activated the Siri. But this is very important to go beyond the beta state monkey mind and go into higher states of consciousness, which is actually, ironically, it's lower mental activity. So we often say raise your vibration, raise your frequency, but if you actually look at it, through meditation, we're lowering our frequency. The thing is, when you sacrifice that which is of the flesh, the lower animal nature of yourself, the lower desires and the thoughts, then the spirit can shine through, the light can shine through. So you're essentially lowering the frequency of your brain, which raises the frequency of the spirit. So it's a paradox. But this is required to go into a Christ consciousness or a Christ state of mind, frequency. Now, some people think this is new agey and we shouldn't be trying to do this. And well, just truly look at what I'm saying here. And what Jesus said, take no thought. Many people have not experienced these states of consciousness, so they have nothing to compare it to. They're always in their mind analyzing and trying to figure things out and trying to compare this is right and this is wrong and this and that. And there's no awareness. And this is what we're going to wrap it up into, which is awareness. Because beyond your thoughts, there is a pure, loving awareness. Some people call this the loving witness, but it is an awareness. And this isn't some theory or some idea. This is true. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a mind? Do you have thoughts? Okay. Do you have a body? Yes. So who is it that has a mind, that has thoughts, that has a body? You will say, me. Well, who is that me that is aware of the mind, that is aware of the thoughts, that is aware of the body? The awareness, the pure loving awareness, that is you. We often think that we are the thoughts, that we are the body. No, you are the loving awareness, the spirit. And as long as you are being distracted and occupied by the constant stream, endless stream of thoughts going through your mind, it will be hard to see who you truly are and to function from a state of loving awareness. This is that unconditional love that Jesus taught. This is that unconditional love that Jesus taught. And it's only possible when you go beyond the mind, when you go beyond the thoughts. I know this might be getting redundant, but I really want you to see this. And I actually want to bring it to another point here that I have written down or typed out here, which is that words are not truth. I've been going into these TikTok lives on TikTok. These people are going live and they're debating about if Jesus is God or Jesus is the Father, or if the Trinity is true, or if the Trinity is not biblical. Or these people have these concepts, and the only thing that is differentiating one person's beliefs and the other person's beliefs are the words that they use and the concepts that they cling onto. And I want you to really see that words are not truth. Words point to the truth. Words themselves, concepts, saying the right thing is not truth. People think if they say the right thing, if they say the what do they call it, the redemption prayer or something, the salvation prayer, if they say this prayer, then they're saved. I know back in the day, the televangelists, probably even still today, they would say these prayers for people, and if they confessed out of their mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and that he died on the cross and for our sins and then resurrected from the dead, then they're automatically saved. And they'll say, oh, congratulations, you just said it, now you're saved, because it says somewhere in the New Testament that if you confess Jesus Christ as Lord and through faith in Jesus Christ, then you're saved. But many other spots throughout the Bible, it says that you are not saved simply by confessing, but through the works as well. Because Jesus says, why do you call me Lord, Lord, but you don't do as I say? And then he said, many people say, will call my name Lord, Lord, but I will say, depart from me, I never knew you, ye that work with iniquity. So it's not just about speaking something. It's not just about the words. It's about people who truly desire to do the will of God and who truly surrender their lives to God and deny themselves and take up their cross and serve the Lord in all that they do. Meaning, serving spirit and not the flesh. So, to bring it full circle, the words that you use are not going to result in a more peaceful life, a deeper connection with God. No, you have to go beyond the beta state of mind, the monkey mind, the problem-solving, lower animal nature, analytical mind, and you have to go into a more calm state of mind, a higher state of consciousness, into the alpha, theta, and delta state. Now, this is also represented in the Bible as earth, water, air, and fire. So, as you know, the earth was flooded in Noah's Ark. The earth represents the lower animal nature of human beings, because there was wickedness on the earth. There was wickedness in the hearts of men. Remember in the chapter of Genesis, in the book of, or in story of Noah, the earth was full of wickedness, wicked imaginations in the heart of people. This is the earth consciousness. This is the beta state of consciousness. As you move up in consciousness, it is represented by water. The alpha state is represented by water. So the earth gets flooded. The animal nature gets destroyed. God destroys all that's on the earth. And then you raise up in the ark above the water. And you're now in the alpha state of consciousness, in deep meditation. And then the air, it says we will meet Jesus in the air. Well, this is the next state of consciousness. the theta state of consciousness. And then what does it say? Jesus is the one that comes to baptize us in the fire. You have earth, water, air, and fire all throughout the Bible. And if you don't know what that means, you will have a hard time understanding what the Bible is trying to teach us. Because it's all about moving from the earth state of consciousness to the fire state of consciousness, which fire burns up all the impurities, purifies your mind, and allows you to function from a renewed mind, a mind like Christ, as we're called to have. We're called to have a mind like Christ, a Christ-like mind, and to walk as Christ walked. This is only possible, as I've said many times and I'll say again, when you move from the lower states of consciousness into the higher states of consciousness, from the beta, from the monkey mind to the alpha, theta, and delta state. Now you can't function in the world through the delta state because you're not aware in that state. You have to bring yourself into this state through deep meditation. And then when you enter into the world, that will be noticeable to other people. People ask me all the time, how are you so peaceful? With all that's going on in the world, how do you deal with this? How are you just so untouched by it? It's because of this meditation practice, from following what Jesus said, not from confessing a certain word, from speaking a certain way. Paul said, I didn't come to teach words of wisdom. He said, I didn't come to speak something along the lines of eloquent words, or I didn't come just for the words. No, I came for the power of God, for the Spirit, to spread that, not just words. Because he says also, the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. And this is the problem that I think with most people who follow Jesus or say that they do. They just preach the letter, but they don't have that internal connection beyond the constant stream of thoughts of pure loving awareness that hasn't entered into their experience yet. Now, some of you may be wondering, how do I access these states of consciousness? Well, there are many ways. Meditation is very helpful. Prayer. Some people can access it through prayer. Through worship. Some people can go beyond the mind through worship. Through, music. Me personally, meditation has helped the greatest, and that's what I teach. Now, I think there's another point. Let me check here. Saying the right thing. So going back to these TikTok lives that I was on, talking to these people who have different beliefs and concepts, and all they do is argue, and you can tell it's just beta state of mind. That's all it is in these lobbies. They're just debating and arguing, and I'll chime in. I'll be like, hey, can I talk? And they'll allow me to talk. It's their panel, I come on respectfully. I'm like, where are we getting with these arguments? Where are we getting with these debates? We're sent to love each other. Why are we arguing if the Trinity was true, or if Jesus is God, or if Jesus is the Father? What does this stuff mean? It's really useless arguments. And it's completely based on the analytical mind, rather than going beyond. And people also ask, why are there contradictions in the Bible? Well, it's because we're sent to transcend those contradictions. And some people may say, oh, there are no contradictions in the Bible. There are a lot. And this is coming from someone who believes the Bible is true, but from a more spiritual, allegorical perspective. And when you look at it from the more spiritual, allegorical perspective, you will see that the contradictions in the Bible are actually there to represent human beings and our psychological thought process and the way we express ourselves, because it's very contradictory. So when you see it from that angle, you realize the contradictions are there because we're supposed to transcend the contradictions and go into the oneness of God, enter to the kingdom of heaven. If thine eye be single meaning there aren't two, there's one, beyond the two into one. Like when the Hindus or the Buddhists put their hands together, it's bringing the two opposites together into oneness. That's what it's all about. The wife and the husband, they come together into oneness. The wife represents the emotions, the husband, the man represents the mind. The mind and the emotions must come together into one. And when Jesus was teaching that, he even said that this is a great mystery. It's very deep. Now, I want to talk about another thing here. We talked a lot about how Christ is beyond thought and beyond words and beyond concepts. But I want to wrap it up with this. And I'm sure you've all heard this verse before. It's be still and know that I am God. Because ultimately, in order to lower your brainwave frequency and raise your frequency in the spirit, you have to be still. And this is why I emphasize meditation so much. Because if we are constantly moving, let me just put it like this. The body and the mind are deeply connected. If your body is constantly moving and active, then the mind is likely also constantly active too. Now, in intense activity, the mind actually calms down, and then you're actually in absolute presence. This is like people who play sports. When you're in that intense activity, race somebody, go outside, race your friend. You will see if you guys are racing, your mind is gone. You're just in the present moment. You are there. So this can happen through intense activity, but it can also happen through absolute stillness. Absolute stillness. If the body is absolutely still, the mind will soon follow. And this is how you know God, that I am presence. Now, if there's some little bugs out here keep biting me. If the mind is absolutely still through, let's say, reading, this is a great example, I'll explain, then the body will also become still. The breath will become still. The breath is connected to the mind as well. So when you're reading a book, you will notice that your breath becomes extremely still. And when you close the book, and you will notice a lot of times you'll take a deep breath as soon as you close the book, because the whole time you were reading, your mind became still and the breath followed that. This is deep. This happens. So this stillness of either mind or body will align all the aspects of who you are, your mind, your body, your emotions, your energies, into one. And this is the whole idea of all the spiritual teachings, to come back to this state of oneness. Beyond the thoughts, take no thought. He said it 5 times. Take no thought. Be still and know that I am God. This is the only way it's possible to go beyond the thoughts, to follow what Jesus taught, to get out of your head, get out of the concepts, stop trying to analyze everything, go into meditation, be still, be at peace. Be, simply just be. That's why we're called human beings, because we have the ability to simply just be, beyond constant thoughts, beyond processing things, analyzing things. Now, yes, that's a part of life, but we must take at least 15, 20, 30 minutes out of our day to be still and be with God. All right? So that's how you tap into the Christ frequency. And if you have any questions, if there are any gaps in what I've talked about, feel free to leave a comment. Also, if it resonated with you and you gained value, let me know. It gives me a little bit of motivation to keep making these videos. Hit the like button as well. If you're new to the channel, subscribe if you gain value. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Much peace and love.